let's start off with the 5-Star Sports Pod on Twitter. Close to home for us, one state over. Will the LSU defense be better this year with Blake Baker at defensive coordinator? So obviously a much maligned defense last year in Baton Rouge, very uncharacteristic of both Brian Kelly and the LSU program that we've come to know over the years, but it was bad. So the tune that you had to have a Heisman level quarterback to even have a somewhat respectable season, not just last year, but the last couple of years. So Blake Baker comes over from Mizzou. He was a linebacker coach at LSU before that, but had a very respectable defense and, dare I say, a very good defense with the Missouri Tigers the last couple of years. I don't know. New coordinators always tend to get the fans hyped up. They always seem to make the fans ready to just forgive all the other misgivings of the past. But what do you think? Is Blake Baker the solution in Baton Rouge?
He's about as good as a solution as you could probably expect. I was looking up their numbers right here. So looking up LSU last year, they were 82nd in opponents' points per game. They gave up 28 a game last year. And if you look at kind of breaking down what they did doing that, they went 255 passing. They gave up 255 passing, and then gave up 161 rushing a game. It's not a fantastic number. And that's kind of a big point where I think we've all kind of talked about that. LSU struggling to stop the run in recent years, at least stopping the run as effectively as they've kind of been used to in Baton Rouge. Much better, I think it will be with the new Missouri coach. When you look at Missouri's stats, 26th in opponents' points per game. That was 20.8, not 28. That's a lot better. Saving yourself a touchdown a game. And looking at the yardage, 213 through the air and 122 on the ground, definitely improved there. And I think the big thing is LSU should have more talent. There are a lot of really good players on that Missouri defense, but overall, I think the roster's better at LSU, so it should be better. I mean, that's kind of my initial take. I don't know if you agree or not, but that's kind of where I am to kind of start off.
I don't know that it'll just be Blake Baker. I do think that he is going to be a lot better than what they've had in the past. He also was made the highest paid assistant in college football. So you hope you get the return on investment if you're the LSU Tigers. But I think the talent at LSU, especially being a year older this year, so many of their top guys were young. Harold Perkins is finally an upperclassman. Seems like he's been on the field forever, but he is finally an upperclassman. We talked so much last year about how he was never put in the right position to succeed, it seemed like, for large portions of that year last year. So I'm excited to see. Blake Baker did a lot with much less talent at Mizzou than he will have to work with at LSU. And I think that's something that LSU fans can be really confident about. So will it be a top 5 unit in the country? Probably not, but I do think that they're going to see some marked improvement this year.
Yeah, well, and they're going to need to, I think, because kind of what LSU's been able to do the last couple of years is just get away with having an awesome offense that, kind of keeps other teams off the field, or at least keeps them in passing scenarios with the game script. They're screaming out to leads and scoring a bunch of points, and so that does put the pressure on. The problem is, those games have been a little closer than they probably should have been. I know they've had a couple with Arkansas that have been a little too close, and there've been some circumstances for LSU that I don't think a lot of Tigers fans are happy with in terms of what they're bringing in and kind of what their defense ends up performing at. So, you take, Daniels out. I know a lot of people are hyped about Nussmeier and what he could do. I'm not necessarily trying to doubt the kid. I'm just saying he won't be what Daniels was at the end of last year and kind of down the stretch last season. With that, you're going to need a much better performance out of your defense to kind of keep LSU in some of these games. I think they'll do it. I think almost out of necessity they'll do it because, it's going to be that or it's just going to be fail, right? And I don't think LSU is going to fail this year. I think they're going to be able to score points on offense, but they're going to have to be a lot better on defense. And, Blake Baker, he's probably the guy to do it. I think in terms of what you could have expected to hire, he's about as good as you could do, and I think there will be an improvement.
Yeah, 33 points per game in conference games that they gave up last year. That is not that's not an LSU defense that will that's what we've been accustomed to, quite frankly, since the turn of the century. And I think that LSU fans demand more, and I think they'll start getting a little closer. I think, you talk about the run defense, but the secondary really wasn't very good either. I'm thinking back to that Ole Miss game where they just got picked apart.
They got torched, yeah.
So many of even some of their wins, like they beat Missouri on the road last year. Ironically, getting Blake Baker from Missouri,
Yep.
put up 49 points on his defense last year, but they were torched by that offense. They were, Florida put up a lot of points on them. Texas A&M, without a head coach, put up a lot of points on them. So it was an ugly, ugly picture for the LSU fans. And I'm not telling LSU fans anything they don't know, right? So there's not really, go back to the question, it's really hard to be worse, right? So they will be better.
Sure.
How much better remains to be seen for sure. And I think they can make a big jump. If they're a top 50 unit, I think we're talking about a slam dunk college football playoff contender. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Well, because you look at what they did. I'm just going through the numbers again. They were the number one scoring offense last year. They won't be that this year, but they're really good on offense. They've got good talent. They're going to have their guys step up. They're going to have guys figure out their roles. Who's going to be your lead guy in the receiver room, right? Who's going to be your primary option in the red zone, right? You're going to have to kind of figure that out. But they got good coaches. They'll get there. They'll trial and error the first couple of weeks, and they'll figure out what they need to do. But they were 82nd in opponent scoring. Like, that's not acceptable for an LSU team. They should not be 82nd with as talented as they are. So, it's again, I'm not ragging on LSU, right? I'm not trying to sit there and be like, oh, LSU, you're bad, I don't like it. Like, we're not saying that. We're saying LSU's got to be a lot better on defense. And if they can make that improvement, even just finish with like a top 50 unit and then keep their offense in the top 10, they're definitely a playoff contender. They're going to get one of those spots. They'll probably finish 10-2 or 11-1 with a top 50 defense, and then they'll be able to go out there and what they'll be able to do with their matchups. I'm thinking already, if they're they don't win the SEC, but they get like a 5 or a 6 seed, and then somebody has to go to Baton Rouge for their first playoff game, that would be disgusting. I don't know which, Big Ten, Penn State's going to end up down there, but it's not going to be a fun time in Baton Rouge if that happens.
Baton Rouge in December, not any elements that are probably going to be difficult to deal with, but a lot of occasions with a lot of time.
The elements will be the fans, exactly.
Exactly. I would love to see a home playoff game in Baton Rouge just for the spectacle of it.
Gracious him! How about